All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest shifts happening in AI right now, the rise of autonomous agents. This is your builder's guide, what they are, how they tick, and how you can get started.
I want you to just think about this for a second. We're all used to AI that gives us answers, right? It generates some text, maybe an image. But what if it could take the next step? What if it could actually do things for you?
That, right there, is the huge promise of AI agents. And in the next few minutes, we're going to break it all down. We'll demystify what they are, look under the hood at how they work, and check out how you can start building them yourself.
Okay, first things first, let's get a really clear definition because you hear a lot of terms getting thrown around in this space. We got to understand what makes an agent different from everything else we already know.
So here's the core idea. An agent doesn't just give you a single answer. It autonomously goes after a goal by completing a whole series of steps to get there. It's kind of the difference between asking for a recipe versus having an assistant who can actually go find the recipe, check your fridge for ingredients, and then add whatever's missing to your shopping list. See the difference?
Now this is where it all clicks. Assistants and bots, they're reactive. They just kind of sit there waiting for your command. An agent, though, is proactive. It can reason, it can plan, it makes its own decisions. That's why the key word here, the real game changer, is autonomy.
Okay, so if they're autonomous, how do they actually, think? How do they make those decisions? Well, it all comes down to this fundamental loop of operations. This loop is just brilliant. It's how an agent handles anything complex. It doesn't try to solve some huge problem all at once. Nope, it reasons, breaking it down into little pieces. It acts on one piece. It observes the result of that action. And then it takes what it learned to figure out the next step, and it just keeps doing that over and over until the goal is done.
And what's powering that loop? Well, it's these 5 core components. Think of them as the agent's cognitive toolkit. Planning is how it chops up a big goal into small steps. Memory is crucial. It has to remember what it just did. Tool calling is how it interacts with the real world, like hitting an API or a database. Reasoning is how it weighs its options. And finally, learning lets it get better over time. These are the literal building blocks of autonomy.
Now, here's the great news. You don't have to build all of this from scratch. So let's talk about the frameworks that are making all this possible for developers today. This is where the agent revolution is really taking off. A framework is basically a software library that gives you all the pre-made parts, the planning loops, the memory management, the tool hookups, so you can just focus on the unique logic of your agent. And the interest in these things has been, well, absolutely explosive. I mean, a 535% increase in popular projects on GitHub in just 1 year. That's not just growth, people. That is a full-on gold rush.
And this chart really just tells the whole story behind that number. We went from just 14 major frameworks in 2024 to almost 90 a year later. The entire ecosystem is growing up at a wild pace.
I love this quote from LangChain's CEO, Harrison Chase. He just nails it. Frameworks are the bleeding edge, right? It's where all the new ideas are happening. They're basically the R&D labs for this whole agentic AI space. So, with nearly 90 frameworks out there, where does a builder even begin to choose? Let's take a quick tour of the big players and see what they're all about.
Think of this table as your cheat sheet. As you can see, there's really no single best framework. It completely depends on what you're trying to do. Building a super complex single agent? LangChain might be your go-to. Need a team of agents to work together? Check out CrewAI or AutoGen. Or hey, just want to spin up a quick prototype? The OpenAI SDK is perfect for that.
Let's use an analogy to make this more real. Think of LangChain like this massive ultimate workshop. It has every tool for every job. I'm talking over 700 integrations. It's perfect for a complex, single-agent job, but with all those tools, yeah, the learning curve can be a little steep.
CrewAI, on the other hand, gives you a totally different way of thinking. It's less about wiring up individual tools and more about putting together a team. You literally define roles, like a researcher, a writer, a fact-checker, and the framework makes them collaborate. It's a really intuitive way to build.
And that whole idea of a team of specialists, it's a vision that's shared by some of the biggest names in tech. It points to this huge trend away from one giant, do-everything AI. Microsoft's Satya Nadella put it perfectly. The future isn't one genius model, it's a collection of specialized agents working together.
So this brings us to maybe the most important decision you're going to make right out of the gate when you start building. Do you need one super powerful agent or do you need a team?
Because here's the thing, adding more agents adds complexity, it adds overhead, and it adds cost. So when is it actually worth it? When should you really make that jump?
Well, lucky for us, Microsoft's guidance gives us a super clear checklist. They say you should only start with multiple agents if you meet specific criteria. For security, like keeping data separate for compliance. For teams, when different developers are going to own different functions. Or for growth, if you already know you'll be adding lots of new capabilities down the line. If you don't check one of those boxes, the best practice is to start simple. Stick with one agent.
All right, let's bring it all home. As we're all looking ahead to this, agentic future, what are the key takeaways for you as a builder to remember?
Let's end on some hard-won wisdom, some common mistakes to avoid. First, don't just chase GitHub stars. Pick the tool that actually fits your problem. Second, don't over-engineer. Start with a single agent if you can. Third, always be mindful of the cost. Every new agent adds to your API bill. And finally, know when to use a pre-built platform instead of a raw framework.
And I want to leave you with this last thought. We've talked a lot about how to build agents, but the much bigger question is how we're going to work with them. As these systems go from being simple tools to autonomous colleagues, how do our own roles adapt? What do we do in this new world of work? That's the question we're all going to be answering very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in.